Hey guys, in this video I wanted to go through a shopping list of things I think you'll need to change the oil on your car. Before you get started buying things, you'll want to make sure you have a plan for how to dispose of your used motor oil. Some cities will have a pickup option at home for hazardous waste disposal, but if you don't have that in your area, you can check out AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts. Some kind of auto parts store like that will generally have a used motor oil disposal service. But you definitely don't want to just throw it in the trash or down the drain because that will get into the drinking water and that's illegal. So with that said, of course, to change your own oil, you're going to need to buy oil. And the weight of oil that you need, check the oil cap under the hood of your car to see, if it's 5W20, 0W20, whatever is recommended for your car, it'll be on that oil cap. You can also check your owner's manual. It might be a little harder to find there, but that's also where you're going to see the capacity of oil that your engine requires. In my case, it was about 5 quarts, which is handy because they sell you these 5-quart jugs, which I do recommend. It saves you a little bit of time and mess if you buy it in 5 quarts at a time, because if you're doing single quarts, every time you get to the bottom of a quart, you're waiting for that last few drops to come out. It just saves time to have fewer containers. It's also a great way. I have an X at the top because I'm going to use this as my vessel for putting the used motor oil in when I'm done. I don't recommend using a milk jug for old motor oil because they tend to leak. As far as the brand of oil, there's thousands of brands and there's an equal number of opinions that'll tell you what's the best brand of oil. So I'm not going to get into that. Personally, I like to use full synthetic oil, and beyond that, you can decide what's best for you. Next thing you're going to need is an oil filter. It's always a good idea to change the filter whenever you're changing your oil. Just like with the brands of oil, there's lots of brands of oil filters. I like to use the Fram brand because you could buy it at Walmart, and I go for the XG series. That's a little more high-end for them. It's rated for a longer interval between oil changes, so that's just saying that the filtration inside is rated for that. There are definitely more high-dollar oil filters than Fram, and they're not necessarily better at filtering, but they tend to have a more robust housing, the exterior shell of the oil filter. Fram has been good enough for me, but if you're a heavy duty user, like if you have a pickup truck and you're towing or you're racing it on a track or things like that, maybe you want a more robust oil filter, but the Fram XG series is best for me. Wherever you buy your filter from, they'll have either on their website or a physical book in the store that shows which exact part number will correspond with your vehicle specifically. You will also need a filter wrench. I have this style that it's versatile because it just clamps onto any size filter. The downside of this style is these teeth, which grab the filter. If you would use this when you're putting on a filter, it's going to damage the filter. So I would never use this when installing your filter, but I use it to help get the filter off. There's also this loop style that loops over any size oil filter and clamps down on it. That's a pretty common style a lot of people use. And then there's this kind that fits over the end of the oil filter, and you would attach a socket wrench to the back of it. This style you might need to use if you have a really hard to access oil filter. Like on one of our cars, it's hard to get to that oil filter. The suspension components are in the way. So I put this plate over the end of the oil filter and I have an extension for my socket wrench just to be able to get to it. So you'll have to pick an oil filter that suits your needs for your vehicle. Next up, you're probably going to need ramps. Something you need to be mindful of is you want to make sure that you have enough clearance at the front overhang of your vehicle that you don't want to break off any body panels driving up the ramps. In my case, some of our cars would clip body panels, so I used some plywood at the front of the ramp to kind of give it a little extra height as it approaches the front of the ramp. That gives me just enough clearance. So you might need to get creative. That's the solution I found. Next up, I would get some wheel chocks. This is for safety. I put this behind the rear tires after I'm up on the ramps. That way the vehicle doesn't have any chance of sliding down the ramps and putting me in danger. These rubber ones work really well. I got them at Harbor Freight. And yeah, I tried backing down once forgetting to remove them and I didn't go anywhere, so I know they work. Next up is the oil drain pan. When you take off your drain plug or your filter and all that oil comes out of the engine, you need something to catch the oil in. So that's what this pan is for. There's pros and cons to different styles. I've personally had some fits trying to figure out what style is best for me. First, I got this style that was for a car. You know, my car takes about 5 quarts of oil. This is slightly more than that in its capacity. And the problem I had was when the oil would hit this upper catchment area, it wouldn't drain into the internal reservoir fast enough. And so it just overflowed over the sides of the catchment area onto the floor. So that didn't work. Next, I got a real cheap one at Walmart that had no internal reservoir. It was just a pan with an open top. And that was great at catching the oil, but then when I went to pour it out into my storage vessel, it was a lot messier and it kind of made a mess trying to pour it out. So the third style I bought was, I went back to the original type, but I got a bigger capacity for trucks and things where your engine has more oil in it, but I'm using it on my little 5-quart application and it has a bigger catchment area up top. So I'm not so limited by the rate of draining out of the engine. It didn't overflow my catchment area before it could go into the internal reservoir. So this has worked great, but I did learn one drawback. Even though this isn't cheap, I think it was $25 at AutoZone, it does leak. If you leave oil in it for days at a time, you come back and it'll be on the ground next to it. So I don't think this is very high quality. That's the downside. But my solution is it does what I need functionally, but when I'm done changing the oil, I just go ahead and put it in whatever I'm going to store the oil in. Next thing you need is to make sure you have a socket that corresponds to your drain plug. So in my case, it's a 17mm socket. If yours isn't metric, whatever it is that you need, you want to make sure you have that before you get started. So you might need to climb under your vehicle and check, or just look it up on the internet. And then the corresponding socket wrench. Some vehicles take an Allen key, so just be mindful of that as well. You're definitely going to want to have some shop rags or paper towels handy, because if you get it on your arm or your hand, you don't want this across the room, you want it next to you under the car. On that note, you're also going to want some gloves, because even if you're really careful, you're going to get it on your hand at least when you take off the oil filters. I also recommend you have a scrap of cardboard handy. Even if you're really careful, there's still a good chance you're going to spill, and it's a lot easier if the spill is on cardboard than having to clean your garage floor up. When it's time to fill your engine back up with oil, definitely going to want to have a funnel handy. Maybe you have magic hands, but most of us are going to spill at least a little bit, and the funnel should help prevent that. Lastly, I'm just going to make a plug for something I do. I have a Google Sheets document saved in my personal cloud as a vehicle log for when I change the oil or do any other service. So I think that's a really helpful habit, because I can write down in my log what size socket I use, what type of filter, how much oil, you know, these details that maybe you have to look up the first time. Why not just do yourself a favor and write that down in your log so that the next time you're saving yourself 10 minutes getting all those things in order. Plus, if you're not sure when's the last time you changed your oil, just check your vehicle log. That's it for this video. I hope it was helpful, and thanks for watching.